Everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over one more of the classes and the changes that they made with this rules update for 5e or 1D&D or whatever we're calling it now. It's all the same thing anyway. But we are going to be going over the Warlock and the changes that they've made to this. Really, we're going to try to focus on the big changes. Jake, right off the bat, what are some of the major overhauls that we see here?
One of the big ones is medium armor training. We don't call that proficiency anymore, is baked right into the class. So you're going to have a little bit more of a sturdy character if you wanted to play frontline things. It's kind of a little bit more in the lane of the cleric, how that's baked into that class. Spell slots are not weird. We don't have the Pact magic feature with the short rest, and at most you ever only get 3 of them. Now the Warlock is a bona fide secondary spellcaster like your Paladin or the Ranger. But one thing I thought was kind of one of the more interesting ones is that your spellcasting modifier now isn't locked into charisma. And you get the choice of your Pact boon at level 1, and then each one of those choices, you actually get the choice of one or another. I don't know why they didn't just give you all 3 for all 3, but you could pick 2 spellcasting modifiers to be how you do the magic.
That's kind of interesting. I think it'll probably open it up to a lot more multi-classing options, between like Ranger and Cleric specifically, or what comes to mind with Wisdom being a choice now.
Yeah, because the Pact of the Blade, you choose between Wisdom or Charisma, and it seemed like multi-classing was something they were trying to curtail a bit. So like one of the biggest common things... It seemed like it, if we're going to trust what Jeremy Crawford says in his interviews, because moving the subclasses to level 3, it kind of makes sense to do that. But so many people would take a level of Hexblade Warlock because that was the thing. You want to be a Paladin, you want to be a Warlock. Well, now you can just focus on your Charisma. They just blew the doors off that because all you have to do is take Pact of the Blade, which you choose at level 1, and now you can do Wisdom or Charisma. So Clerics, here you go. Druids, Rangers, this is the thing now.
This is how Wizards of the Coast tries to dissuade you from multi-classing.
Yeah, by giving it to everyone.
Yeah, love to see that they still know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, you've also got Pact of the Chain, which you could choose, which gives you the Pact Familiar spell, which you could choose Intelligence or Charisma as your spellcasting modifier. And one really odd note is, of course, they're making, instead of being able to choose the familiar type, they just give you one generic familiar that you can have, which looks different. The familiar has the option of going invisible as their action until I think it's the start or the end of the next turn, one of those things, but hiding is an action. So if you have to use your action to stay invisible, can you not use your action to also hide? There's just some things that seems really not thought out, and it needs to be smoothed out, if you ask me. I mean, familiars are always just funneling information to the Warlock, kind of like what they do.
The main thing that I remember about an entire character that Nooch played is that it had a familiar, and that was an owl. I couldn't tell you the character's name. I couldn't tell you a lot of things about that character, but I remember their familiar.
Tried to pass him off as a Beastmaster Ranger. But of course, you also have Pact of the Tome, which gives you your Book of Shadows, and then your spellcasting modifier for the Book of the Tome is Intelligence or Wisdom. So you don't even have Charisma as a choice there, which is just kind of interesting. Nice thing about that is it's kind of like your Blaster Mage. At level 5, you get your spellcasting ability modifier to cantrip damage. So that's not something that you normally can do, but you can if you choose the Pact of the Tome.
That's interesting to me. Like multi-classing requirements, you have to, you must be this tall to ride the second class. It used to be Charisma was one of the things that you needed. You don't necessarily need that. 13 in one of the primary abilities: Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. There you go. So you need a 13 in one of those 3, and you're good.
Imagine if you did it backwards. Anyways, I have a 13 Charisma, but I'm taking Pact of the Tome.
There's nothing saying that you can't.
No. We like weird characters here.
We do. We love them. One thing that I think is probably a good change, and this may be more of what was being talked about with the multi-classing stuff. Eldritch Blast, it only scales with Warlock levels now, whereas it used to scale with just character levels. Yeah, so you and I were talking about that before. You grab it at like a level 18 fighter, and now you have 4 Eldritch Blasts,
I still have 4 attacks. It's fine. But the other nice thing about Eldritch Blast is now it also comes baked into the class. You get the spell for free, which is also the same thing for Hex. It's a little bit different in that the damage is only dealt once per turn and not every time you hit it. So using the Eldritch Blast thing that you just talked about, you couldn't just be dealing an extra like 3d6 when you hit somebody with 3 Eldritch Blast beams. But the damage does scale instead. So that kind of is a little bit different based on the spell slot you use. But another tiny little pet peeve, this is me being a little nitpicky, but I think since Hex is now actually baked into the class, I mean, it was always kind of assumed you would take it. It's a very dark sounding spell, and I understand that that's the meme, but not all warlocks are dark. Now, what if you're a celestial warlock or, you know, an archfey? Like, there's many different kinds of patrons out there, and they're not all evil. Warlocks get a bad rap, Josh.
Yes, they do.
Maybe you should tell us what names they should get. In the comments section. What would you rename Hex?
Not fishing for comments. Always fishing for comments, but not fishing for comments. I genuinely am interested to hear other ideas for that.
Eldritch Bane, maybe? Eldritch. We go into the Eldritch well too much? I don't know. Maybe.
Can you ever go too much into it?
Well, not if you're a warlock.
Yeah, you don't. Next thing is another kind of strange change. Your subclass, your patron, which is the big thing for this class, right? You pick it at level 3 now instead of just right off the bat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like from a story perspective, that feels a little strange to me.
It does. I feel the same way. I mean, what's the phrasing? You start with boons and bargains with lesser entities or contacting distant planes. I thought contacting distant planes was actually something that you'd have to like learn as like a powerful spell. So that's a little strange for me. I know if you watch the video that Jeremy Crawford did, he said like you have a Pact at level 1 and maybe you change it, and it's a little strange, but like if the flavor of the warlock is that you begin to learn and acquire knowledge and then you attract the attention of a patron, that's a wizard. Wizards learn knowledge and then cast spells. That's a wizard. So this is really strange to me, and I know that might sound a little odd because if you watch my sorcerer video, I don't have an issue with them getting their subclass at level 3, because to me it's like the magic just kind of grows with them and just that's the pacing of it. This is like relational for the warlock, so there's something that's just, I mean, tell the stories you want to tell, but the way they're presenting it is weird.
I think a lot of people who dip into the warlock class kind of our ancient relics and hooky religions debacle, you know, with Veil. I don't think it's uncommon for people to have a character like that where they're like, oh yeah, you know, they went in, they made this deal with this thing. You're kind of losing that. I think you're losing that because it's like, yes, I made this deal with this thing, and it's like, but not really, not until level 3.
I'll just switch. You know, it's fine. It's totally fine. Yeah.
Which I guess, you know, you could just explain away with you already had your deal. Now you're just getting the extra powers for it. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of, I don't like it. I'll just say that.
I like the idea of maybe the patrons holding the good stuff back until level 3. That makes sense to me. But just switching it, I don't know. It's just off. Not bad. It's just off.
Next up, I hope you're all ready for margaritas because we have Contact Patron at level 11, right?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I love that. Contact Patron. This is when the warlock gets drunk, he can talk to his patron. That's the way it goes. No, at level 11, you get the Contact Other Plane spell for free. And once per day, you can do this, or once per long rest. And you automatically succeed on the saving throw, so you don't go crazy, which is nice. It's just the warlocks and their patrons, I guess. Patrons are a little more hands-on than deities.
Interesting. I thought you could just contact other planes at first level.
Well, apparently, you do it for real now at level 11. It's very, very odd on the flavor.
We have a change to the capstone as well. Capstone is now Hex Master, which, again, make a new name. It lets you cast Hex for free. The bonus damage now scales with higher slots being used, making this not useless, but still. Is that it? Is that it for a, capstone ability?
It's very strange to me because I feel like every class should have a cool one. But, I mean, you make a deal with the devil, I feel like you should have a pretty cool capstone. Like, there should be something really over the top, even if it's just dramatic. It's like, you can cast Hex for free. Yeah, I've been doing this since level 1!
I mean, at this point, a level 1 use is just like whatever, You got a ton of those. Not a ton, but you have enough. That doesn't really matter. I don't know. It just feels like they couldn't think of something, so they're like, just give him Hex for free, just because I thought it'd be funny.
It's got to be something like that, right? Yeah, no, I think it actually doesn't even specify if, because now the damage scales with level, I would have to think that they're using the most powerful spell slot, a level 5 spell slot. It
That's
doesn't
how I
say
would play it.
it doesn't specify, but that's how I'm doing it. And if you're filling out the survey for Wizards of the Coast, tell them you gotta specify that in the feature.
Yeah, because that's gonna be a point of contention at tables. Which I mean, they will change. Well, they'll change this from what we see now. We don't know if they'll make the right changes, but they will change it. So I guess we get into the invocations now. Any interesting, cool changes here?
Mostly what I see is quality of life improvements and rearranging and redefining and stuff like that. But there are some new ones too, like the Hexer, which is just a way to improve the Hex spell. Some stuff isn't listed, like Eldritch Smite isn't listed, so I don't know if it's gone or if it's just unchanged. So that's something I'm just curious about. If I missed information about that, I would love for you to tell me about it in the comment section. You do get an additional invocation, which has been added to the eventual total. So instead of maxing out at 8, you get 9. And that was very much marketed as a bonus. But the fact that Mystic Arcanum, which is how the Warlock would get their like level 6 spell, or level 7 spells, or level 8 spells, 9 spells, that's gone. And in a way, the Warlock still sort of is a primary spellcaster because they're going to have access to this stuff. But you have to use an Eldritch Invocation to do that. So I think a ton of Warlocks are going to be like, they're going to hit level 5 when they have 3 invocations, and they're probably going to feel a lot of pressure to use the remaining 6 on these higher level spells to keep pace. Now, I know Warlocks are different and weird, so like some of them will be your, fighter mage, your Gish kind of a thing, or whatever else someone has an imagination to play out. But this actually is a huge nerf, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a massive change.
Yeah.
For the worse, in my opinion, but it just depends, I guess, on what you see this class as and what your goals are for it. Some people aren't going to care.
Yeah, I don't know. That needs work. That for me, that's a big yikes if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think just 5 words sum up all these changes. And it's a Hexer. I barely know her.
Hey.
But the last thing I guess that we have here is just changes to the patrons, and it's an expanded spell list, which I feel like you've seen this with new ranger subclasses, probably the expert ranger in One D&D. I'm not positive on that, but I know the other newer subclasses, like everything in Tasha's has it. Paladin Oath spells are there too, but it's just something that you automatically know. You always have it prepared, and you could also use them once per long rest for free. So that's a nice addition.
It is nice. I mean, those spells used to just be options you could choose that was unique, and now you get them just like the Paladin always has theirs prepared. And I think that's good because I think your subclass choice becomes a little more meaningful in that way. And I think that's the way it should be.
I think it's cool to take some things like that and just give them to you, and it's not in place of something, and it's not just an extra choice that you have. It's just, here, you have this. We just did a charity game. I played a Swarm Keeper Ranger. I got Web from that. I would not have picked Web. And this is not that I don't think Web is cool. Web is fine. Just not something that I would have picked if it was an active choice that I made. But because I had it, I used it, and it helped out. It helped out big time. If you want to find out, watch that game. It was a fun time. We raised $870 for St. Jude, which is fantastic. But all of that to say, little extra things like that, they just add something and maybe give people opportunities to try things that they wouldn't have tried if they were given the choice instead of just given the opportunity.
And now is your opportunity to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and watch some of these other wonderful 1D&D videos on screen, or maybe even the charity fundraiser. That's probably on screen now. I guess I'm pot committed because I mentioned it. You should check all that stuff out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.